So pretty much all you guys are like active now. Like when you read this book, it's no longer just words on a page. You connect with it. It stirs you deep within. The thing that I would ask of you, not that it's a real asking because it's just your natural extension, but the thing that I would ask of you is in your busy doings throughout the week, not to let that subside because of where you find yourself. Okay? But to keep shining that light and to keep allowing that inner stirring to make you more and more active, to bring you more and more into the present. Because it's only in the present, it's only in this moment where you feel the stirring of God. This is the moment you're alive, not yesterday, not tomorrow, not in 10 minutes when you can go and do something else. So it's in carrying the light, which is now activating and activated within you, which has been laying in wait for so long, in carrying that with you, that you begin to see the witnesses to the truth of it in you in others. And in that regard, there really aren't any others. There are no brothers, sonship, none of that stuff really, not in truth. There is only one self, and that I share with God. But we use the relationship of the sonship. We use the relationship of brotherhood, of communion as an idea to bring into an alignment the nature of our relationships, whether we find ourselves in a Zoom room or at our supermarket or at our workplace, anything like that. Hey, Johnny. And it's very easy to let the whole day go by without abiding in that presence, abiding in that place where you find yourself, in that vulnerable and open place, like when you read these lessons. You know, I think for me it was 8 months. Lesson number 1, nothing I see means anything. I would go to the healing center and join in the little group for the morning reading of the 20-minute book every single morning for 6 years. But for the first 8 months, I was like a block of wood. I was thick and dense and I couldn't hear. I had ears and couldn't hear a thing. And it was 8 months before nothing I see means anything dropped in. There was a penny drop moment that I had with it, and bam. You guys are all going to have those moments. They're all part of your awakening sequence. You'll have these kind of like little out of time intervals, Jesus calls them in the Course, out of sequence time intervals, or however he expresses it, where all of a sudden something you've been reading on these pages actually connects with something that's going on for you in your daily life. And then boom, you'll have a shift, right? But in order for you to become aware of that shift, and in order for you to be joyful about it, it's important to really try to carry that light with you from this Zoom meeting or from your daily lesson or from whatever it is. Like Jesus says, try to keep the thought, you know, perpetually going in your mind throughout the day. I mean, he offers you a pretty easy off the hook kind of option, you know, like 15 minutes twice a day. I mean, what the hell is that? My block of wood is so thick, I can only tolerate 15 minutes twice today, you know. But you get to the point where you just want to carry this. You just want to be the light of the world continually, because you're manifesting something from that light that bears witness to that which is unlike anything else you've ever seen in the world before, right? A reflection that has no comparison. And that's going to look like whatever it looks like for each of you, but you'll know it when you see it, because it won't resonate with anything that normally would, your normal references, points of reference. The whole point of miracle-mindedness is to allow yourself to approach this present moment again and again and again in faith, right? Now, in faith, you have to be stepping into that unknown moment. There's no defense possible in that unknown moment. Somewhere just beyond that unknown moment, you know what everything is perfectly well. But you have to be led there by your own devious route. So you're offered these lessons to try and make it easier and try and lessen the blow of the realization that you actually don't exist. But you carry that light with you into those moments. You carry your light with you, I should say, into those moments, and allow that light to shine onto the situation, onto the event, onto the person, onto whatever circumstance it seems to be, so that the reflection that you're getting back from it reflects what it is that your new purpose is telling you through the use of these lessons is so for you, right? Which is why not one of you in this room can tell the other one the right way to do the lesson or the wrong way to do the lesson, including me. Okay, it's a completely individual. I can tell you what it is for me. I can make you a total declaration from the certainty of my mind that God is a fact. Okay. But whatever that means to you, I don't know if you're hearing, God's a bag of oranges. I have no idea. And God is a bag of oranges, right? It's all inclusive. It's completely altruistic. In this world, everything is one thing, bag of oranges included. As soon as you try to tell yourself, oh no, God's not a bag of oranges, how could that be so? Then you're separating the bag of oranges from everything else and the light's covered. So it's as simple as that. It's like the first step into hell, and it's a slippery slope. Whoop, down you go. And then you come all the way back around again, and in the evening pick up your lesson to do your lesson. It's like, and it feels like the whole day's gone by and you haven't done your lesson. The whole day's gone by and you haven't done your 15 minutes twice today, or whatever the specific instruction for the lesson today. So that activation that's happening in you, like, this is the ugly part. I know I've told you guys this before. This is the ugly part, the undoing. Okay, so the first half of the workbook. The second half is concerned with the acquisition of true sight, which is much nicer. It's much gentler. Everybody loves that bit. But the undoing, the countenance of the idea of denial, the countenance of the belief in separation, facing that, you get to see where it is that it plays out in your thought system, day after day after day. When will this be over? Why me, Lord? This stupid course, I wish I could throw it away. But I hear it saying something, I can't throw it away. Okay. So there's this discipline and a devotion and a dedication to yourself, not to doing the lessons, to yourself, in a structured kind of format for a second that looks like 365 lessons. Okay. Now, as soon as you attempt to decide how those lessons ought to be, or how it is you're going to do them, you're not doing the lessons. Okay. And I had, all the time, I get people occasionally going, oh, I did 4 lessons today. And it's really important, it's really important that you follow the instructions. Okay, I can't emphasize this enough. It's really important that you follow the instructions, because the instructions are specifically geared to bringing about an orchestration in your thinking on a, if I was to call it an out of time timeline, or an out of time sequence might be better. Okay, that depends upon you're learning these lessons. You can't learn them if you're considering that these lessons are something that you have to rush through or get through to get to the end, because each lesson is an ending and a beginning in itself. It's not a sequence. There is no 365 lessons. There's one lesson presented in 365 ways. Okay. It looks like 365 lessons, a beginning section and a second section in the workbook, so that it kind of reaches out into the dark corridors of your thinking and permeates into places in your mind that you never realized were even there. That's why when you realize some of these lessons, Bethlehem, and you like flabbergasted at what you read, and it's like, how can that even be so? What does that even mean? Okay, that's just the residue of ego mind attempting to structure a better defense against what it actually means. Okay, anytime, like the Christ in you, the true self of you knows exactly what it means, because that's the part of self that this course came from. This course came from the already resurrected part of your mind. It already knows everything. It has total knowledge, total connection, total union with God all the time, right? That's the Holy Spirit's, what do you call it? Conduit in you. So at any time where you're finding that you're struggling or trying to work out or asking yourself those sorts of questions, what does this even mean? Right? That's the denial of the meaning of it. You'll understand what it means in the doing of it. Okay. So one of the things that'll save you a lot of time is to let go of trying to understand what it means. Right? Just trust that Jesus knows what it means. If you don't know what it means, that doesn't mean that there's a necessity for you to know what it means. It just means that you're not following the instructions. Okay. Simply do this. Lay aside, blah, 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 all thoughts, etc. Okay. Simply do this. In the action of simply doing this, right, there's a leap of faith. There's a place in the mind. It's an action in mind. There's a place where I'm simply going to do this, even though something in me is trying to convince me that I don't know what it means, or why is this so, or how could that possibly be? All right. It's important not to listen to that voice. You're learning through the mind training not to listen to that voice. Okay. Simply keep going forward. Don't look around or back for verification of why it is you should simply keep going forward. Just keep going. Just keep going. Okay. So just a little housekeeping. I'm very grateful always for my teachers early on with the course, because I sat in my teepee for about a year on the community where I was living prior to going to live in Byron Bay, trying to work out what this course meant, and absolutely going around and around and around in my own head with no solution, no answer, no nothing. And it wasn't until Greta pulled me into line and held me to account with simply doing this that things began to change. Right? It's really, 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 really important that you understand from the get-go that this is a journey of faith. This is a journey into fear, and it's a journey of faith. Okay. So when it gets fearful, be joyous. When it gets upsetting, be grateful. Because if it doesn't get upsetting, and if it's not fearful, it's not the course. Okay. This is a journey into fear. This is where we're looking consciously and actively looking for our blocks. Seek for your blocks and find them. Don't worry about why. Don't worry about who did or how could that possibly. There's no answer to that. There's only an experience. And in the removal of the blocks, through revelation, miracles, and all of those things that come along, the answers will be given. Not answers to the questions you have, but answers to the conundrum that existentially you find yourself in. Okay. Now, I wanted to talk about last week we did a little bit of listening exercise with the guys in the UK. I'm not going to do one today, but for you guys that didn't attend the UK meeting, you might like to jump in there and just go through that. when we get a bit further down the rabbit hole, we'll do more of the listening exercise rather than the light session and the healing and stuff like that. But it's a good idea to, because like I don't know what stuff you guys have done. I have no clue. Prior to me coming to the course, I'd done everything I could. I'd been everywhere, done everything, every goddamn workshop and synagogue and you name it. I'd paid money for stuff and healers and bloody, it's an endless list of rubbish, but I'd done it all. And little by little, all these ideas sink in. Little by little, you sort of form a kind of a framework of awareness of yourself when you're in this kind of frequency. And so learning to listen, I even went to a listening workshop once. I think I failed it, but learning to listen is one of those things that, and there's a beautiful book, just getting off the subject a little. I think it was written by Adi-Dar Samaranch, or Dar John, as he was known in his later years, called The Knee of Listening. And it's a really thick book. I don't know how anyone could write so much about just listening. If I was to attempt to write about listening, it'd probably be just a page or two. But I remember reading a part. I didn't read the whole thing, but I read a part of that, the first few chapters of that book, and totally latched on to what he was talking about. And the listening spiritually, not listening between two people having a conversation, although there's an art in that as well, but listening spiritually is something that you go inward doing, listening to the now, listening to this moment, listening to the silence. Okay, so learning to still that mind, Bethleen, that's asking questions. Okay, and it's not like you can consciously choose to make it still. You consciously choose not to listen. Okay, otherwise you're going to be validating it. So it's not that I'm choosing actually not to listen to it. I'm choosing to listen to the voice for God instead, right? Without needing to know what that should sound like, be like, whatever. Okay, which leaves you in a silent place. It leaves you in a place where you don't know. It's an unknown moment. You don't know what you're listening for. You don't know what to expect in that place. It's a clean slate. You don't write anything on it. I'm listening for the voice for God, and it should probably sound a bit angelic, or it should probably sound booming, or none of that. All of those thoughts and definitions and things like that, let it all go, and try to find yourself in a place of listening where you are simply in the action of it. Okay, so it's a very, very, very still place. In that place of listening, like we were talking about with a roll of 35mm film, that little black line, when you slow a roll of 35mm film down, right, movie film down, you start to notice a little black line between each frame. In your own thinking, when you can either slow down or not listen to your thoughts because you're listening for the voice for God instead, you notice there's a moment of stillness. It seems to evade your awareness, okay? And literally your attempt to try and bring it into your awareness denies it, right? So it's always paradoxical. There's always this moment. It's like, I know it's here somewhere, but I can't keep it still in my mind, right? Which is why you need to do this with the Holy Spirit, which is why you need to call upon the Holy Spirit for absolutely everything, okay? In that moment of stillness, it's like suddenly you just see that little line of film, of black line between the film, which represents, you know, each frame represents my thoughts, and boom, you just get sucked through that little opening or that little black line, and something happens in your mind, and there's a brilliant flash of light. Okay, that's where we're headed in this journey. We're headed into the stillness. When Jesus says, "Be still and know that I am God," that's all this is. That's it. Everything else is a framework to bring you comfort and joy and all of that sort of stuff so that you'll actually acquiesce to being still. Ted used to say, if I could nail you guys' feet to the floor, I wouldn't even have to sit here. I'd just like leave the room and just, you'd have no choice. You'd have to be still. You'd have to do this. Jesus went into the desert and drew a circle and sat there for 40 days and 40 nights. The devotion, the integrity, the dedication, the determination. That is the place. Like, try to find that as an idea in your own mind. I'm going to sit for 40 days and 40 nights in the desert with no food, no water. And I'm either going to expire from my physical form, or I'm going to go beyond it in a revelatory moment of self-realization. Right? It'll bring up everything. It'll bring up every fear. All the fears about your body. The devil came down and tempted him and took him up to a mountain and said, if you're really the Son of God, you can jump from here and no harm. Don't tempt me. So everything is going to come up in that. Now, in a smaller scale, in doing these lessons, in reading that words on that page, you are doing that. In your mind, there's a moment where you're being still and allowing something else to occur through the reading of these lessons, which is why you're becoming activated, which is why all that emotionality that you've tried to keep suppressed for so long, representing the denial of the dark thoughts that you've attempted to project out of your mind, is suddenly getting broken apart, if you like, or pried loose. Stuff's starting to shift. Stuff's coming up. You're no longer a static form of dark, retentive light. Right? The light is in. The light has come. And you can celebrate that. You can be in joy in that. This whole course really is like getting you to take one for the team. It's like you look at the world out there and there's 7 billion other form associations all running around trying to make money and have fun and sex and possessions and everything else. And look at us crazy bastards. We've given up the world. Whose idea was this? But it's like you see the options, Well, I'm doing this for my brothers. I can't do it for me alone. And it doesn't make any sense to. Why would I want to leave anyone behind? Why would I want there to be anyone that I would even need to forgive, even if it were possible? That's a place you get to. That's the prayer of the heart. Why would I want there to be anyone that I even thought I needed to forgive? It's just myself ultimately, but in that external processing and transiting to the internal processing, it's like, why would I want there to be anyone to forgive? All form is illusory. Let me stay there where all form is illusory. Or you can use the other one. There is no world. You can use any of those things. Let me stay there in that place. I don't know what that means, but I know that Jesus knows what that means. I'm going to stand there and ask him to show me so that then I can know what he knows. Okay. This is not about having a better life in the world. This is hard work. This is the tough road. And yet your life in the world will reflect your efforts, becoming more peaceful and more inclusive and more accepting of others and all of those sorts of things as you begin to accept in your own reflections. That's why I tell you guys, don't get comfortable. Don't get comfortable. Don't make yourself a nice little spiritual bubble that you can exist in. Get out amongst it, meet people, put yourself into whatever. It's like, ask, here I am, Lord, where should I go? What should I do? You know, and I'm my own worst, what would you call it? I'm the worst at taking my own advice. I got invited to a party last week. I don't even remember what a party is. Like I have no clue. I got invited to a party and I saw myself making every excuse why I didn't really have to go to a party, right? Because like, I'm done with parties. I don't like, what even is that? People get together and put some music on and start jiggling around. Like, that's kind of weird. But at one time I know I would have, exactly. At one time I know I would have thought, oh, great, a party, you know? And in the end, I didn't go. Not, you know, like I held myself to account and told myself, all right, I'll go. But in the end, I was like, nah, it's too late now. I'm not going to go. So I didn't go. But there was a little willingness there. But it'll come around again, I'm sure. So, because it always does. The lesson repeats until it's learned. And if lessons look like parties, I guess that's not such a bad thing, you know. So, Michelle, what's going on there?
I was going to say, if you get invited to a party, ask me because I don't want to go.
I'm not separate from you. That's denial. See how that works? I want to go. There's my mind reflected somewhere out there in a Michelle. I don't want to go. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
I'll take total responsibility for your not wanting to go. I'm one with you. All right. So what are we going to do today? Who's got some shit? Wesley, come on, Wesley. Yeah, I can see him getting pumped there for something. Let's crucify somebody.
Well, I was saying we should have a party. Party.
Oh, party. Oh. I thought it's Easter, you know, we could break this down and do the Easter story, but which would be nice. You guys all know the Easter story anyway. Are you actually anyone here not really Christian oriented, or you just sort of stumbled across the course after being an angry Muslim or an angry Roman Catholic or something, and anything like that? No.
I mean, I know the story as it pertains like to the Bible and what I was taught with Catholicism. So, but if there's something other than that, then I don't know the story. And crucify somebody, I crucify myself every day. So, I mean, if we're gonna put someone on a crucifix, I'm way ahead of you, bud.
You don't have to do that anymore, you know. I mean, if you got to, you got to, but you don't have to. The last useless journey was the one Jesus made, the journey to the cross. But the idea of the resurrection, right? It's important that you have a grounding in it. It's important that you understand what that means for you, because it's the offering of God's promise. Without that, it's just, you know, you'll be banging your head against the wall, this stupid course. Why am I doing this? You know, God's promise is the resurrection, which is active in you. It's like eternal life and all of that sort of stuff. So all of that beautiful stuff. But you have to live that. You've got to walk it. I'm living in the resurrection. I'm living in the resurrection. I'm living in the resurrection. Because the dream is always going to be drawing you back into the dream. Oh, no, but look at the dream. But look at the dream. Look at the dream. You know, the inner kingdom, that inner awareness of your true purpose, which is abiding in that the energy of the resurrection or in the alignment to the resurrection. That's got to be where it's at for you. That's what the mind training's for. So that idea then that there is no death, it's like that whole example that Jesus made. So from the Garden of Gethsemane, forget all the miracles and everything beforehand. Okay. That was just getting Jesus his notoriety and building him up and everything like that. But from the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus knew he had to go and present himself to the Sanhedrin for judgment. He went into the temple, drove out the money lenders, turned over the tables. They arrested him. You can't do that. You're a naughty boy. And dragged him off before Pilate. And he made that demonstration willingly, even though he had the doubt in the garden, right? Thy will, not my will, Father, right? So I've often tried to imagine if I had to play that part, I probably would have run away. I don't know. There would have been Roman soldiers chasing me over the hill. But if I had to play that part, it's only my love for you that would have put me into that place where I realized that the greater good was more important to me than my own good, which is where your own acceptance of salvation becomes truly the most selfless act on the planet. It's like the holiest of all spots on earth is where an ancient hatred has passed away and become a present love. That ancient hatred, it's already been healed in you, and you're witnessing to that healing is what the resurrection is in your own mind. It's hard to comprehend as a singular entity that seems to be sitting in a Zoom room, eating food, doing whatever it does. It's hard to think outside of the box in celestial terms to try and imagine a life beyond the third dimensional framework that we seem to experience this in, where there are those who are collaborating for our greater good, who have already gone beyond the parameters of time and space, who are already operating out of time for those of us who are yet still finding ourselves for a moment in time, right? So when you study or look at the idea of the resurrection story, it takes your mind instantly when Jesus says, my kingdom is not of this earth or not of this world, to the disciples, and they don't know what the hell he's really talking about, because up until the point where he resurrected, Peter especially was convinced that he was here to save them from the Roman occupation somehow, right? And if you were to look with open eyes at the kinds of men that Jesus handpicked as his disciples, right? Simon, the taxpayer, the tax collector. Can you imagine, right? Just try to visualize. Can you imagine a time where crucifixion is a common punishment? People are flogged. It's brutal, right? Stoned to death. There's this old eye for an eye mentality that Jesus has come to reinterpret through the new law, the new covenant. All of this stuff's going on. He's walking through it as a living, not opposition, but as a living replacement for that thought system, knowing full well that he's not welcome. A prophet is never welcome in their own home. He gathers to him his brothers and his friends. Simon the tax collector would have to have been a massive, solid bloke. You didn't go around knocking on people's doors, taking their shekels, if you were just some guy that would get blown away in the next big wind. You know, Mark and Peter and the other guys that pulled in the nets, fishing. Can you imagine the muscles every day pulling in wet hue nets? They would have been made out of hemp or whatever the hell they were made out of. There was no lightweight materials in those days. Those nets would have been sodden and heavy. They would have had muscles upon muscles. All right. Jesus himself was a carpenter, carrying lumber and chopping trees and doing all of that stuff. He wouldn't have had a hand saw, like an electric saw. He would have been strong. All those guys would have been massive. Now imagine 12 guys like that, right, plus Jesus, all walking around saying, this is the new covenant, this is the new covenant, all right? Any garrison of Roman soldiers would be fearful of them. There would be this moment where, hang on, there's 12 of them and there's 4 of us, and even though we've got swords, I don't like our odds because these guys are huge. So the whole orchestration of getting the message in took an incredible feat of practicality and using what was available to ensure that it was played out to its nth degree, right? To ensure that it was there was certainty and surety in the acting out and the playing out of the delivery of the message and the ability for the disciples to go onwards post the message and the completion of the resurrection to continue carrying the message. Right? Everybody in the vicinity, everybody knew who they were and what they were about. Okay, you wouldn't have messed with Jesus, but at the same time, you know, that's why he could make a whip of cord. That's why he could walk into the temple and turn over the tables. You don't think they had guards in the temple? The Sanhedrin had their own guards, just the same as there is guards you go to the Vatican. You can't get in without unless you pay the $3 entry. There's guards, there's things. Jesus walked in there because he was able to, turned over the tables, got crucified, put in the tomb for 3 days, and resurrected. All right. The resurrection all of a sudden brought to bear the message, the truth of the message that Jesus was teaching, that not only was he not really talking about an earthly kingdom, but that he was demonstrating that because he came from not an earthly kingdom, he was able to transcend the limitations that the earthly kingdom seemed to impress upon him like everybody else, but not like everybody else. Does that make sense? It's like that was a living demonstration of not from here, a living demonstration of not a body. It's like, now that is in your mind somewhere. That moment where the realization that he didn't die, that there is no death, is in your mind. It's in your mind. And it's at the point where you think death actually exists, which is why this is a journey into fear. Because beyond that block is the fear of love, which makes no sense because love is what you are. And in the moment that you confront the fear of death, the fear of block will be gone along. The fear of love will be gone along with it also. Right? It's like a house of cards just falling. It's just as soon as you see that there is no death in your own mind, it's like the whole game's up, the whole jig's up. Faith is no longer required. There are no more lessons, no need for miracles. It's done. It's over. Because we are one mind, we share a single mind. We share a single self. The experience that there is no death, the experience of the resurrection, which is the reinterpretation of the idea of death as being not the ending of life, but another form of life, is active. It's active in you. Inherently, you fear it. You love to fear it, but inherently you fear it. Right? It's like a game you play with yourself. It's like I love to be afraid of death. Right? And the ego loves to creep up to the sort of like the edge of the precipice and look over and give itself the willies, and then ooh, that's a long way down, and then creep back again. Right? That's the action of mind. That's what it is that we do, or I do. I should keep this singular, but that's the action of mind that I do every time I'm tempted to hold a grievance. I'm looking at forgiveness. But I'm not actually forgiving. Because the temptation to hold a grievance is what the grievance is. The temptation to think that it's even possible that I could hold a grievance validates the dream. It's that temptation, like the original error was the temptation. You know? It didn't matter, like if you look at the garden story, it didn't matter if Eve bit the apple. It was the fact that she was tempted. It's that temptation. That's how subtle this gets. It's another level. It's like thought and action, even though it's the same thing because cause and effect are not separate, but it's at the level of thought that choice is made. And beyond temptation, beyond that even ability to be tempted, there's an empty place there. There's a place where we can listen. Okay? There's a place where we can sit, where we can be, where we can abide, where we can live. It's like, fuck temptation. I'm a child of God. I have no use for that. I'm not guilty of anything. I need not apologize. I need not say thank you or please. None of those things. None of these human constructs that define what I think an acceptable identity is. You know, Jesus says that there's no such thing as reciprocal relationships. I don't care how nice you expect me to be to you, or whether I have expectations of others being nice to me, or in the opposite, being nasty and horrible and all of those sorts of things. It's important only that I be myself. What that is, that is. You know, let your words reflect mercy. But what is mercy? What is mercy? To someone who's led a soft and pampered life, it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. But to someone who's struggled and had hardship their whole life, mercy is a gift beyond words, beyond imagination. It has value. And that value is only attributed to the relationship that you have. Everything is a reflection of your relationship with God. Let it be merciful, each to his own ability to perceive it, each to his own ability to give from it, which is why I can't tell you how to do these lessons. These lessons are an act of mercy for yourself, to yourself, from God. You're being asked to be merciful to yourself. And that looks like, for a minute, being willing to confront the good and the bad and the, you know, the polar opposites of what I think mercy might look like, in the realization that I actually have no clue. I actually don't know what mercy is. All I've ever known is judgment against myself. All I've ever known in this world, in this dreaming, is the lie, is the deceit. That's it. It doesn't do any good to find a spiritual book called A Course in Miracles and then suddenly become a spiritual person. Oh, everything's good now. I've got a book. I'll be holy. That's not doing the work. The work is where we take that journey into fear, where we're willing to look at our blocks. Okay. Heidi, you're doing really well with that, by the way. I'm picking on you a bit. So where's Donna? Donna, did you understand that post that I sent to you earlier? You did. We were talking about. Oh, you didn't read it?
I read it. I read it a few times, but I don't know that I understood it.
Right.
Because
Go on.
yeah, because this process works so well for me. It has brought me into the only miracles that I have, the changes of perception that I have experienced have been basically through this 6-step process. So I really didn't understand.
It's hard to put it into words, right? And I'm not telling you not to use a 6-step process.
Right.
I'm just telling you, don't let it become a ritual. Don't let it become...
So I guess I don't really understand what you mean by that.
Okay, so the ego's only purpose is corruption. All right. Think of the Holy Spirit in you like the wind. It comes from wherever it comes from and it goes wherever it goes. And no man knows where it comes from or where it goes. Right. That's Jesus talking about the Spirit in the Bible. Okay. If I want to embrace the Spirit as it is, not as I think I should have it be or how it could look for me or whatever, I have to allow myself to be blown by that wind from whatever direction it wants to blow at and take me to wherever it needs to blow me to. Okay. As soon as I try to decide what I think my path of healing looks like, whether 12-step traditions, 6-step traditions, whatever like that, all of those things are useful to a certain point.
Got it.
Okay. But all of those things, it's like rungs on a ladder. You got to let them go eventually. So the idea that I would, oh, here's this 6-step thing that I used to use a long time. I forget who it was that wrote that post. And here's this 6 steps. Look, I found it. It's like, why would you want to find it again? You know, it's like, look where I am now. It got me to here. Okay. Am I going to go back to something? And this is where you have to be vigilant, because there's no going back. Whatever you were doing that put your foot on the rung of Jacob's ladder a year ago, 3 years ago, 6 years ago, it got you to this rung. Now, from this rung to the next, it has to be miraculous. I don't know how that's going to look. I don't want to repeat some idea of healing that I had in the past in a specific format to try and attempt how to enable me to get to the next rung on the ladder. Okay. I have to let it be totally miraculous. God will show me if I'm willing to be shown. Right. And whatever that looks like, it'll be whatever it looks like. But if I've got my head in some book, if I've got my head looking at, oh, I'll go back to AA or I'll go and do whatever, I'm going to miss it. All right. There's always more. God only gives. And whatever's in the past is all my past learning. It means nothing to me now. I don't want to hold on to one thing that the past has taught me to tell me how it is I'm going to embrace this next moment. Not one thing, even if it's called something healing. Let go of that. Let go of that. Just continually letting go. I'm letting go of that. And then this is coming along. I'm letting go of that. I'm letting go of that. And I'm learning to stay in the here and the now, where healing can happen to me automatically without 6 steps, 12 steps, any kind of steps.
Yet, I mean, I feel like it's very useful for me to attend your sessions or even the 20-minute sessions we do on Thursday without you.
Right. Absolutely. If you feel it's useful, then it's useful. But at a certain point, you're going to have to let that go too.
That's what it sounds like you're saying. And I guess
Right. I am saying that.
That's why it sounds like it.
I'm totally saying that. I don't want to see your face on this screen in the next 12 months from now. You got to have your own screen, your own room with a whole bunch of people, and you can do all this shit. You can activate a bunch. One of the things that the old man, right? So master teacher or dear one, one of the things that was given to him was to be a teacher of teachers, right? So you've got the Course in Miracles where you learn through your own process to become a teacher of God, right? Inside the whole framework of salvation and the orchestration of everything, it's not limited to A Course in Miracles.
Right.
All of those other things are included. 6 steps, 12 steps, the whole, anything, any idea of healing. Okay. Ultimately, all of these things are going to bring you to the here and now, into the present. But there are a lot of other goings on, I guess, right? Orchestrated by non-temporal beings, by other frequencies from other kind of whatever. I don't even know how to talk about it. But there's a lot of other stuff going on that some of you guys are finding that stuff and it's bringing you to the course. Some of you guys are finding that stuff and it's taking you beyond the course. Okay. Only you can know where you're at in your own thing with that, and where you're at really doesn't matter, because it's only in the present moment where you're at. It's not like you can sort of track this. It's like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. You just put the bit in that you've got in your hand right now. Where does this bit go? You know, it's like, I'm not going to go back to my instructions or whatever, to the 12 steps or whatever I came from. It's like a doctor. A doctor doesn't study for 7 years to become a doctor, read all those books or whatever, and then when they get a patient, let me just look at my book. You go beyond that. You accept finally that you're a doctor, and you make your diagnosis and whatever. I mean, maybe you do use a book for a second, but there's always got to be this understanding that eventually I'm going to let it go. It's like Jesus says in the back of the course in the workbook, and now forget this course. Okay. If I forget this course, which is the greatest course there could ever be, right? It comes from the illuminate mind of Jesus Christ. If I forget this course and then go looking for another kind of a course after he's just told me I don't need it, you know, where is my faith? Where is my trust? Where is my discipleship going? You know, it's like, and the tendency is to want to cling to something. We find this path of healing and we really love healing, and we become enamored with feeling good about confronting our bullshit. And we want to keep doing that, keep doing that, seeking but never finding. You know, so we read that line in the book and says, and now forget this course. Oh, well, now what am I going to do? I'll go and read the Keys of Enoch, or I'll go and find some other kind of, you know, the Melchizedek method or something. And I'll go on and on and on and on, becoming a perpetual healer. Right? There's nothing to heal. That's the message. You're whole and perfect. That's the message. You're a child of God. That's the message. Live from that place only. Right? Live from that place, whether you've had an experience or haven't had an experience, whether you've had revelation or haven't had revelation. Live from that place. I didn't want to come back here. When I stepped out of time and I saw reality, or I was one with reality, and I found myself completely illuminated and without a body, just mind, pure mind, I didn't want to come back here. But I'd already had a prearranged agreement with Jesus, which was revealed to me both prior and in that experience, or just after that experience, that showed me that I have a purpose here as a teacher of teachers. But first I had to learn what that was. Right? You guys have the same thing. You share my purpose. I know it because I'm a single mind. I am whole mind. You are whole mind. You couldn't be here in this room listening to me telling you this unless it was somewhere true for you. It'd be somebody else sitting here, because there's no mistakes. There's no coincidences. You're teachers of teachers. Okay. Everything you do, everything you say, your attitude, your disposition is teaching all the time, but you have a more specific core to your purpose. It's like 10,000 people followed Jesus across the hills of Galilee, but he only had 12 disciples. He had 12 that he entrusted with the message wholly. And even at a certain point, he turned around and berated all the 10,000 following and said, go back to your homes. You know, you're only following me because you want fish. You lazy bastards, you don't want to fish. You want me to give you the fish and the bread. Go away. And sent them all home. You know, if you were brought up Catholic, you might have this kind of understanding or thinking of Jesus as being incredibly gentle and completely compassionate or whatever. Jesus was just like a ridgy-didge in my mind. He was no nonsense. And some of the times that I have heard him speak to me, he's kind of like told me off, not in a judgmental way, but in a way that makes me stop and think about what the hell I'm doing. You know, it's like, pull your finger out, Dave. I remember one day I was sitting in session listening to Ted. Ted was talking, I forget even what he was. Oh, no, that's right. He was asking for, he was talking about how you'd never ask for enough. You know, the human being is so limited to what it thinks it deserves and all of that sort of stuff. And he was saying, you never ask for enough. You should always ask for more. Ask for everything, you know, because you're a child of God. You're entitled to everything right now. And I was sitting on the table, a little sort of low boy table next to the music box where I used to play the music for doing the light session. And I kind of looked up at the ceiling, and in my heart, I just sort of said to Jesus, I want more, right? This is after Revelation. This is after the Father and the Son are one. I didn't know what more I could possibly have, what more there could possibly be. And I heard Jesus speak to me directly, like a voice, as if he was standing in front of me or beside me, and said, what more could you possibly want? and he said it in such a powerful way. And all I could think to say was, I don't know. And he said, well, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. That's what he told me, like verbally, like I'm talking to you now. And there was no one there. And, you know, but you got to let the ride happen. You got to let the ride happen. As soon as you attempt to decide how healing happens, what's going to be useful for you, what's not useful for you, you're trying to paddle your own canoe. It's like throw those oars in the water and let the current take you. In this moment is all of life. In this moment is all you could ever need. Live from this moment, breathe from this moment. The here and the now, not even in the physical compartmentalization of the here and the now. It's beyond that. But at the very least in the here and the now, in the physical compartmentalization of it, at the very least, have it as an idea or a principle. And then in your meditative efforts, go into it deeper, deeper, deeper into the here and the now, to that still place, and have a direct experience of the light. Okay. There's two parts to enlightenment, two parts to salvation. One is the experience, the other is the purification of the mind. Both are essential. The course is only concerned about the purification of the mind, the acquisition of perfect peace. Okay. Because with perfect peace comes stillness. With stillness comes the light, comes vision. It's perfectly possible for you to be entirely still in your own mind doing your shopping. And it can happen spontaneously, right? It's perfectly possible for you to be completely still in your own mind doing a yoga class or baking a cake or anything. And all of a sudden, boom, shanka, the world will disappear. Okay. What's important is for you to be aware that it's disappeared, because it's appearing and disappearing every given instant. You are appearing and disappearing every given instant. It's like that roll of film. The roll of film that plays the movie is running at 24 frames per second. You're preoccupied with watching the movie. If you could slow it down enough, you'd start to see the black lines. And then you'd become aware that actually something else is going on other than the movie, and you'd start to pay attention to that something else. And the more you start to pay attention to the something else, the more that something else becomes your point of focus, until finally you only see the something else. You're completely ignoring the movie. Does that make sense? That's mind training in a nutshell. So last night, like I've told you guys before, when I meditate, I usually meditate laying down flat on my face, right? Reason being is that when I found myself back in the world from the illumination of my mind, I was laying face down on the floor at the far end of the room from where I was when I walked into the room. I have no clue how I got there, no clue why I was laying face down. And I was so squashed, my nose was completely squashed into the carpet and the whole thing. And I'd been laying there for about half an hour, according to whoever, the other reflections of me. But when I laid down face down on the floor and go into a still place, I don't even know why it is this. I can only just guess, if I had to guess, that it's because it's just my particular thing. All right. How it works for you is how it works for you. Don't become like Buddhists all trying to study Buddha and start all laying face down on the floor. Find your own individual, how it works for you. Okay. But for me, if I'm laying face down, even in my bed, I'd just lay face down and bushka. I have instantaneously like these radiant auras of light in my consciousness that come from somewhere back here and ricochet through my mind to such a point where my body has this most massive spasm that if I wasn't laying on my bed, I'd probably hurt myself. You know? And that's just a reaction to the light. Last night I had 3 of those. Usually I only have 1, 2 at the most. Last night there were 3 and incredibly powerful. And today I woke up feeling like just I had energy to burn and whatever. And I went out to start my car and the battery was flat. The paradox. But that stillness, that present moment, or the present moment, it's not in the future. It's not happening tomorrow. It's not going to happen next week. Okay. It happens when you draw that circle in the sand and make that dedication to it's all or nothing. It's all or nothing. I'm giving up the world or I'm not giving up the world. Okay. I'm standing here and it doesn't have to look like 40 days. It can look like 40 nows. It's the idea, because life is thought. It's the idea. All right. Just as time and space was a tiny mad idea, so we're having this tiny good idea. Right? It's not our own idea, but we're going to abide with the goodness in that idea or the holiness in that idea and let it do what it needs to do without trying to decide how that ought to be, which is why we can't structure it. We can't try to control it. We can't put it into some kind of box where there's steps and orchestration and whatever, because finally we've got to let go of everything. You've got to walk off the edge of the map and not worry about where's up or down, left or right. Where do I go? What do I do? Because there's no limit in you. There's no limit to you. You're a limitless, eternal, all-inclusive, altruistic being. Co-creative, whatever. You know, the words don't do it justice, but you get a sense of it. And it's that sense of it that is going to propel you on. Understanding that sense, understanding the resurrection. The resurrection is happening in you. It's like 2 days, I don't know what day it is in America, but 2 days from now, is it Friday there? Is it Easter Friday or something? All right, so up on the cross, right? But in 2 days from now, the stone's going to be rolled away. The resurrection is occurring, right, as a historic reference. But that's happening in you now. That's happening in you all the time. I'm resurrecting all the time, all the time, all the time. It's not going to happen next year. Maybe next year something will happen. Or maybe when I do my workbook for the 10th year in a row, something will happen. That's not it. Forget this course. You guys are active. When we do even the reading of that 20-minute book, forget about even when we do our light session. When we do even that reading of that 20-minute book, you guys are so stirred, right? I've been to course groups. I traveled this whole country. And at the time when it was like 20 odd years ago, at the time we went around, we had this kind of network of guys that had been in and out of the center in Byron, and they'd set up their own little things in other cities in the country. And we would go and visit them. And I'd sit there and guys would be arguing about what things meant. It'd be like this conceptual bloody back and forth, back and forth. There was no activation. There was no light, no joy, no happiness in it. It was just like this seemingly never-ending brick wall of concepts. Right? The concepts are useful for a moment because they give meaning to the principles. The principles are only useful if you apply them. It's the application of the principles that bring the result, because experience is the teacher, and it's experience that we're about here. I don't want to see you guys here in 6 months, 12 months having no experience. Right? And I kind of have to talk to you in this kind of dumb way because that's how I got it. I sat there listening to Ted every day for 6 years like I was the biggest dunce on the planet. It's like finally I'm like, oh my fucking God, I finally heard what he said. I finally heard there is no world. I finally heard that nothing I see means anything. Right? I finally learned through my own experience. Now I've got something to give. Now I've got something to offer. Whether you teach it formally, whether you teach it through poetry, dance, through just smiling, through doing a painting, it doesn't matter. You're teaching from that place of now, from that place of not emptiness, but that place of expectancy, that place of openness, and allowing that to flood through you just like a torrent of living water, just to come out, come out, come out. You breathe it, you feel it, every cell in your body when you breathe. Woo! It's alive. It's alive. There's light behind your eyes. There's a vibrancy and a radiance of being that you've never felt before, and you're connected with everything, every tree, every bird, every living thing. It's not about tomorrow. It's about feeling it, about being in the flow, the here and the now. Life is a flow. It's an energetic extension, a vibrancy, a frequency that ever increases. And we're raising up, raising up, raising up in that frequency, not looking at it, but as that frequency itself. You're an idea in the mind of God. You are God's creation. You are what that is. You are the creation, the kingdom. Just as I am. And for a second, we find ourselves back in time, having had an experience of being out of time, or a revelation showing us that there is no world. We find ourselves for a second back in time, helping Jesus with the collapse, helping Jesus with the time of ending the suffering for everybody. And it's got to be selfless. It's got to be selfless. It's the greatest act there could ever be. You're not being asked to be crucified. You're not being asked to be laid in a tomb. You're being asked to be happy. That's it. Just choose to be happy for no reason at all. It seems so difficult, like we need these concepts and these ideas of this framework. Oh, it's okay to be happy. You mean I don't need an excuse? Life is eternal. No one dies. No one's ever been born. Life is eternal. The illusion of form is exactly that, an illusion. Don't try to work it out. Just let it be what it is, accept it as it is, and be about your Father's business. And you'll know what that is, because it'll trigger you. It'll upset you. You'll find yourself getting pissed off next time you go shopping. You'll find something to tip the apples out of the cart, and be still. That's where you be still. You do this. It's like, here I am, Lord. Wendy, here I am, Lord. Not in my words, in your words, in your heartful words. Right? God knows what you're asking before you even ask. God knows what you want before you even conform possibly the question or the request. Because the only true thing you could ever want is knowledge of him, which will relieve you from all the other things you think you want or could possibly want in the future. That knowledge will come to you through the acceptance of things as they are, the acceptance of things as they appear, illusion or otherwise, it doesn't matter. Because the opposite of life is not death, it's another form of life. All right. Rachel, you're good? How you feeling in this?
A lot of it, I mean, makes sense. And like I'm I'm really confronting and coming to a different understanding of like life and the concept of death. And like Monday, I was in the midst of having, you know, like why did my dad have to die? And I feel like he answers me. Like I hear an answer, and it's I'm not afraid of that. And I mean, that came up when you were talking about I don't know. Sorry, I'm a little all over the place.
That's cool. That's why I asked you.
Yeah, but I mean, his answer was because this is where I need to be. And
Right, exactly.
that we're all, you know, serving a purpose in remembering, walking each other home. And so this is where I need to be, and I have a purpose, and he's where he needs to be. And so it's that teetering between like what my eyes see and what I know, what I hear, the messages I receive. And I actually really liked hearing about the builds of the wise men, and not the wise men, but the apostles,
disciples.
Yeah, the disciples and Jesus. Even it thin, like I'm 6'1", strong build, and I have a lot of judgments on my body, and it should be different. But hearing that, I just had a moment of like I really am Christ-like. An appreciation for my body, not a judgment of it. So I don't know. I'm learning, and I'm grateful. A lot of different emotions. Anxiety has tremendously subsided. Fear, or not fear, but well, I guess it is fear, but anger and irritability come up a lot more now, but I move through them and cry a lot, and just but I I love myself, and that's not something I ever would really believe or say until a week ago, when that came to me in a brief meditation.
Good.
So I don't know, like a lot's going on. A lot is what I would normally label as chaotic, but I feel like I'm where I need to be in everything.
Right.
And
can I offer you something?
Of course.
So when you said I cry a lot, okay, that's all well and good, okay, but I would offer you this. In the moment where you find yourself crying a lot, call upon the Holy Spirit, okay? It's one thing to cry about things and the ego would have you believe that's a release and it's whatever, because the ego has a whole game face for what it considers to be spiritual, including what it thinks healing is, okay? Call upon the Holy Spirit in those moments of crying, as well as in the moments of being happy.
Yeah.
Okay. And you'll find it's like with Tina, you'll find that there's a point, and I can't really teach this. I can't really talk about it accurately, but there's a point where all of a sudden that crying shifts and it becomes laughter. All right. Now, that's not of you. That doesn't happen because you choose to suddenly start laughing. It happens because you're choosing to give that crying and what that crying is symbolic of to the Holy Spirit for your healing. Okay. And the Holy Spirit can help you a little more if you would give even your happy stuff, even your happy thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? And all of that stuff's even saved up for you. Right? I won't get into that right now. We'd have to talk about all sorts of records and different things, but all of that's kind of saved up for you. But there's a point of transition where you'll find yourself crying. And man, this course, it can break through a lot of ice, you know, and you'll find yourself crying about stuff all over the place. Sometimes you'll be crying for no real reason. You won't even know why you're crying. You're just crying. Just remember to offer it to God, offer it to the Holy Spirit. Okay? Without any expectation of what you think that might bring about.
Yeah, I will, because that's the big thing. I don't feel like I know, and if I don't feel like I have to know, and I'm not running from the crying, I'm not trying to make it different with any form of meds, or I don't know. I'm just
Good.
Yeah, moving through everything.
Good. That's good. You got a lot going on right now, so it's like you're in a good place actually. It's when you don't have a lot going on, that's when
I feel more like myself than I have in a long time.
Good.
So that is
because you are yourself.
Yeah.
The truth of you will set you free, even conceptually, because the resonance of the truth is even held through these concepts. Just your ability to read the words on the page and have them resonate to you, have them actually penetrate that dark exterior layer, you know, it's like that will make you even feel better. It's like, thank God I've found this course. I mean, there's times where you're going to want to throw it against the wall, but like you pick it up because you know there's truth there. There's something in you that resonates with it.
The other thing.
Yep.
The other thing that spoke a lot to me is when you talked about temptation, that the temptation is first and then come these emotions. And why I go to that so much is because it's the pseudo feeling of being alive. Like it's my ego telling me like I'm alive. But that it's so not real. Like and that's how, like, in an instant, it's, yeah, that was big for me.
Right. You are alive, but you're not the Rachel Bellamy that thinks that it's what alive is.
Right.
You are life itself, you know. You can experience that even in and through the body, because that's where you seem to find yourself. And even your miscreative thought process are worthy of love, but not love on your own terms, because that's never worked for you.
No. No.
That brick wall makes a flat forehead, you know.
Yep, and a lot of bruises.
Yeah, hell of a lot of bruises. So I thought I saw Annie pop in there somewhere briefly. No, maybe I'm dreaming.
No, I just talked to her and she said, it wasn't her. So it was like a ghost, because I had talked to her this morning. And then,
that's bizarre. I could swear I just saw her image show up on the screen.
It's Kevin. I saw it too.
No, I see Kev down there.
Turn off your camera. Show him, Kevin. Turn off your camera.
Yeah.
See?
I'm not losing it.
No, thank God. You're the more sane of the two of us, Clinton. It's like finally we've found each other.
Yeah. You know,
it's
been like 10 years. I would like I'm gonna go hang around. And I just told Annie this morning, I said, I've been trying to go hang around, Dave, for like 10 years and it just never happens. I literally told her that this morning. And then I looked at the clock tonight and it was time to go. So.
It's funny, whatever it takes, it takes.
Yeah, when it's time, it's time.
Yeah. You think of 10 years on the scale of time and space. No, it's a blip. It's not, it doesn't even register as a blip.
It could have been Teddy too, you know.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time with Teddy.
Oh, he's doing a bit of ass kicking. He's been quiet the last couple of weeks, but he's been doing a bit of ass kicking. Getting some, oh, hang on, I've lost my thing here. Am I still on? Is anyone there?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I've lost. Oh, there we go. Back. But yeah, I know guys that tell me all the time, you know, like, oh, I've had Course in Miracles on my shelf for 20 years. Maybe I'll read it now. It's like 10 years is 10 years is almost like the indoctrination period. It takes 10 years to actually get around to, you know. It's a big breath. 10 years is like a big breath.
It seems like yesterday. It really does.
Yeah, I know. Another 10 years, it'll seem like yesterday as well.
It seemed like this morning.
Yeah, exactly. And no time will be passing. There'll just be a little more snow on the roof. Looking at your avatar going, ooh. All right, who else we got here? Donna's good. Rachel's good. Ida. Kevin, what's going on with you? You seem to be in the dark there. Are you in Clint's house? His house is very dark too. I know it's late at night for some of you guys. Wendy. Kevin, what's going on?
Yeah, I've got the light on, but I'm using a tablet. I haven't got my laptop's not working properly.
Okay.
I don't know
You're
what else I can do. The light's on.
You're
up in there,
excused.
in my eyes.
You've got a hall pass from Jesus. You're allowed to have the tablet. Heidi. Wendy. How's things since our little, where did she go? There she is.
I'm here. Good. I'm good.
Really? Everything's good?
Yeah.
You slapped yourself about a bit and
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do that, you know. Sometimes you just got to like wake up. What are you doing?
Yep.
Good.
Hey,
So-
I wanted
Dave.
to ask
Oh, go ahead.
Wendy, is that a solitude? A Grand Design solitude?
It's a momentum.
Oh, okay. I got a momentum in my front yard, but I was going to laugh if it was a solitude because it would have been. But momentum is still good.
Yeah. It's a pretty great one.
Yeah, cool.
Hey, Dave. Wesley has his hand up.
Oh,
It's Tina.
Wesley. Where is Wesley?
has his
Oh, there.
hand up.
Hey,
Oh, Angela has her hands. Angelica.
go ahead, Angela.
Hi.
Hey. I'm not high, but if I was, I'd be like,
Coming up
"Hey."
a lot of stuff for me.
Good.
Yeah, it's like the same stuff. I feel like repeat my whole life this stuff. It is something deeper for me, like no can see totally, no can release, and no can let it go. These seemings, family roles and fucking things that I adjustment, have a lot of grievance and adjustment, and no can let it go. It's like now I'm here with my mom in the hospital, and I blame my brother to be so irresponsible with her, and and he's drinking with his girlfriend here. We sharing times to take care of her, and he's drinking with the girlfriend, and doesn't matter. No, be careful. No, it's awareness with this stuff that my mom is in hospital, and he can go drunk inside the hospital to take care of her. And I have this fucking perception that this is the fucking truth. This is this fucking dream is real. And this, and I don't know how I can release that. And I'm blind and perceive a lot of shit and not can let it go.
Okay. The thing is, you can't let it go. Of yourself, you can do nothing. You can't let it go. If it was up to you, you would never let it go. You would hold on to it and hold on to it and hold on to it until the end of time. Okay? You need a miracle.
Yeah, really.
It has to, wait. It has to be a miracle. Now, everybody, it doesn't matter what the situation is. It could be something about your mother and your family. It could be something about your workplace or your partner. It doesn't matter what the situation is. It's always going to be those situations where our family and everything, because they're more emotionally loaded. Okay, they have more emotions, more investment. Those are always going to push us the deepest. But don't waste your pain. Learn to use your pain for what it's really for, which is prayer. Okay? Draw your circle. Go into your circle in prayer and ask for a miracle. Not to change your brother, not to fix your mum, not for any of that stuff, but for a miracle to even be willing to forgive. Because you're not willing to forgive. Okay? I don't care how many people want to stand in front of me and tell me, oh, I'm willing to forgive this. I know that you're not, or it wouldn't be an issue already. It would be done. Because in the moment you're willing to forgive, it is done. But that has to be a true moment. It can't be lip service. It can't be emotionally driven lip service. You can stamp your feet and wave your fist at the sky all you want. There's a place in you, there's a moment in you where all of a sudden you're done with it and you want it done. Without any idea of how that ought to look, without any idea of an outcome, without any idea of expectation of somebody. And the whole reason you're in this pickle is because you already have expectations. This person should play that part. This person shouldn't do that. This person should do that. Okay? It's verifying your identity in the dream on one thing and perpetuating the thought system on the other. Okay? You're in like a double bind. So stepping back for a second, I have all this emotions, it's coming up. It's like at a certain point in the transition of this, you're going to be grateful for your brother without wanting to change him. Wow, thank you for playing that part for me. Okay? He's playing that part because he loves you. Your mother is playing that part because she loves you. Everything in the universe is attempting to get you to wake up. But you have to understand that that's the part it's playing, and it will continue to play that part for you until you do. Okay, it will continue to play that part until you're willing to learn the lesson that is contained there, which is the letting go of what you think the situation is and how it should be resolved. Okay, expectation's a bitch. You can't change one hair on your head from black to white. You know, of yourself, you can do nothing. Not a thing. You're completely vulnerable and dependent now. And let that be okay. Okay? Let that be okay. If you're in the hospital, I'll tell you this right now, there will be a chapel in your hospital. Okay? I want you to get up from this Zoom meeting right now and go to the chapel, kneel down at the altar and pray. If for some strange reason the chapel is closed, kneel down at the door and pray.
Chapel that have something inside.
Be about it. Vamos.
Thanks, Steve.
Everything is symbolic. You know, everything is symbolic. Everything represents something. Try to see the external world as a what would you call it? A reflection of your own thinking, as a reflection of your own thoughts. Okay. It's like, I remember when I heard about my teacher, Ted, leaving the continuum, I was actually in the hospital. And I'd have to go back through my posts to get this now, because it's done in my head. But I was actually in the hospital. I forget what I was there for.
I remember.
You remember?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Go for it.
You your wrist. You hurt your wrist.
Oh, that's right. It was my wrist.
Yeah. It was. You didn't come to the meeting. Yeah, it was months ago.
That's right. I didn't come to the meeting. And there was someone had told me that Ted had just left his body. And I remember I went to the chapel and I had to go and find the security guy and borrow a lighter, because there was no candle. And I lit a candle for Ted, you know, in the chapel. And there was a massive release. There was all sorts of stuff, you know, and in my heart and mind, I was telling myself, I'm good with Ted passing, good with him going, good with him leaving the continuum. But I knew that there would be baggage, because I knew that I'd made an idol of him at some point along the way. And I knew that I'd also never released that. And so there was a whole bunch of stuff that had to happen. And there was some beautiful communication from him that followed after that, and still follow. It's funny. Oh man. So one of the things that he told me recently, this is just an aside, but one of the things he told me recently was that I won't be able to get a hold of him for a while, because he's going to be very busy catching up with the atonement. He's done his debrief. He told me that he's done his debrief with the tech crew, and he'd resumed his seat. He'd resumed his place. One of the experiences that I had, the revelations I had, I think I've told you guys about this one. I was sitting in my bed one night and this golden orb appeared in front of me, just out of nowhere, a translucent orb. And I looked at it. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't anything for some strange reason. It was just like a very natural, normal thing to happen. And I was reaching out to turn off my television and go to bed, and this orb just appeared, the size of a ping pong ball, maybe about a meter or two from my face. And as I stared at it, it came closer to me and then expanded enormously and engulfed me into it. And I found myself outside of my body, outside of the world, outside of this dimension, in a place where I was in like this amphitheater. I don't know how to describe it. There was no physical beings there, but yet the place was packed with presences of mind. I can't really talk about it, but I knew there were individual beings. And I'd asked for this experience. I'd asked to meet my guides or whoever it was that was talking to me, because I was hearing a voice. And one of them came down to me and took me around the circle, and not by the hand or anything. I had no body, but just energetically. I can't really describe it, and then I looked up into the circle and there was a gap, an energetic gap. I just knew something was missing. And the voice said to me, "That's where your teacher Ted sits." And then boom, I found myself back in my body, back in the room. And I raced over to Ted's cabin and I told him, I said, Ted. And he said, "Oh, you just had a meeting with the tech crew." He said, "They probably gave you an assignment and you probably got information and blah, 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 blah." And of course I did. And that continued to unfold in me and through me for the next, maybe even to this day, I don't know, but very obviously things would drop in, and it would be reflected off that meeting. But Ted's there back in that space now, and he told me that I won't be able to get a hold of him for a while because that's where he is and he's very busy. And but since then I have heard other communication, and with Annie and whatever, we had this little meeting about printing the sparkly books, and Ted told me to tell Annie that we were to print 3,000 books. So Annie asked me to ask him, and that's the answer that she got, and that was perfect. So we're printing 3,000 sparkly books. And I don't know where I'm going with this one, but anyway, I forget what prompted me for this little story, but doesn't matter. Oh yeah, but use whatever's given, like the guidance that's given, use it. So Angela's gone to the chapel to pray. It's like that came through very strongly. There's a chapel there somewhere, go and find it and pray. For each of you, there's a chapel. It's within, but symbolically, if you have to do it in form, if you find it in form, so be it. Jesus went into the desert and drew a circle. I'm sure he didn't have to go into the desert, but made the form. Many times I've been to the beach and sat and drawn a circle and sat in it until I felt a sense of integrity with my prayer. Sat in it until my legs ached, until my knees felt like they were going to snap. I don't know how the hell I could do that for 40 days, but Ida, Anthea, what's happened to your camera? We're looking up at the ceiling or something. Oh, she's in bed. Is it late there where you are in England? Are we keeping you up?
You're on mute, Anthea.
Wee hours of the morning for her.
Is it?
Yeah.
It must be about 4 a.m. now. I can't see the time.
You should go and make a nice hot cup of Bonox or something. Bonox.
Well, I woke up at about 2 o'clock and I was thinking about the lesson for the day. Then I was thinking about you guys and I thought I may as well join you because I'm awake.
That's about the miracle hour, 2 o'clock. You'll get used to that.
That's been happening for a while.
Right. It's about 3:30 for me over here. I seem to wake up at 3:30 most mornings, and sometimes I can get sleep. Where did Ida go? Ida, what's happening with you? Come on, you got a story to tell.
Yeah, you knew, right?
I know. I can feel it. You're bubbling. Look at you.
Yes, since the beginning.
Right. Go on. I've held you in suspense.
So I'm feeling this contraction at work a lot. Meaning I feel extremely fatigued, extremely bored. And I'm saying, show me, where are you? How can you help me? Because I feel physically extremely tired. And my mind goes into like numbness to keep that position going because that's what I'm doing. I have to be there. And I'm super bored because I'm not really doing anything. I'm just waiting because that's the job. And then I'm just asking, Holy Spirit, be with me. But I don't want to say but. Just day goes by. and I come
Right.
and I open the book. I can read three lessons. Boom! I fall asleep, and the day has gone. So, I guess my question is, since this is what it is at the moment, I just I want to know, where is Holy Spirit in that numbness, in that fatigue, in that tiredness that
You
I
won't
created?
find the Spirit in that.
What's that?
You won't find the Holy Spirit in the numbness and the fatigue.
But that's,
You
yeah.
can't bring the light to the darkness. You have to offer the darkness to the light.
Okay.
Okay. You've got to let go of that idea of numbness and fatigue and everything else, which is only coming about because of judgment. Okay. In your willingness to let go of those definitions and things that you've placed on everything, the Holy Spirit will be there. You're the one keeping yourself from God, not the other way around. God's not hiding from you. You're doing this to yourself. You're the crazy one.
So then when physically I feel very tired,
Right.
what do I do?
Judgment is physically debilitating.
Mm.
It's a bitch. Right? Somewhere in your mind, you're judging yourself in relationship to your job, to the situation, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. It's a catalyst.
I do.
Rather than learning, or rather than using the catalyst for what it's for, you're judging it and judging yourself in relationship to it, which doubles down on how it is you feel about it in the first place. Okay, so you're impounding it. You need a miracle to even want a miracle. Okay, so the situation will unfold for you when you accept it exactly as it is. This is boring. This is terrible. This is horrible. But it's only me that's given it that definition. Okay, because I give my thoughts all the meaning they have for me. Now, if the purpose of my thoughts is not the one that I thought it was, which is death, which will bring fatigue and boredom and all of that, right? They're the harbingers of death. If the purpose of my thinking then about this situation is erroneous, if the purpose of my life or my direction is now changed, then I'm obviously in the perfect situation and place to begin to affect that change, not in my workplace, but in my mind, by releasing the defenses that maintain my perspective of the situation as a whole. Because there is no Ida, there is no workplace, there is no boredom, there is no such thing. There is only love. There is only God. I'm seeing something else. I'm seeing an illusion of God because I'm choosing to judge God and hold God up to account for what I think I've done, blaming him for it. Right? You're not aware you're doing that in your own mind. You think you're just bored at work. But the Holy Spirit's there with you going, come on, Ida, just call on me. I'll sort this out for you. Just call on me. Okay? But you've got to be willing to call on the Holy Spirit in the spirit of that calling. Okay? Which is a willingness to allow whatever it is to occur to alleviate you from the symptoms of time traveling. Okay? You're caught in this loop of time. It's going to get more boring. It's going to get more futile. It's going to get more everything. If you walk out and quit your job, then it's just going to repeat in another form later. So as long as you're not in any physical danger, you may as well persist with this one and push it to the limit. Okay? But there's going to come a point where you'll be sitting at your office desk and you just won't be able to take it anymore. I'm so bored. All right. That's not the point that's at the limit. That's at the point where you need to pray for the healing of your mind to release you from your perspective of it. If that makes sense. Until then, it's sort of like nearly there, nearly there. You know that game kids play and it's like warmer, warmer, colder, colder, colder. All right, so this is like that. All right, you'll go to work every day and the same shit will play out. You'll have the same situation, the same people, the same events, whatever. And you'll be sitting there, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored. Now that you're aware that you're bored, it's going to make you more annoyed. Okay? Now that you're watching your thoughts, now that you're becoming mindful of your thinking, it's going to piss you off even more. Okay? Don't get upset about being pissed off. I'm telling you that's literally a good thing. Just look where you're at with that and let it take you to the max point of potential that you can in that situation where you just can't take it anymore. Because at that point, your prayer is going to be honest. Until then, you're just going to be wanting to whinge about it and talk about it. And how come this, why that, where's the Holy Spirit, blah, blah, blah. It's like, forget all of that. Stay in the purpose. Okay? It's like my toilet cleaning scenario exactly. All right? Tina's got that. I don't even remember which one it was on.
I'll tell that story. Yeah. Are you going to tell it?
You want me to tell it?
Yeah. I want to hear it.
Didn't I already tell it? Isn't it already on the record? Does anyone else hear it? I feel like I've told it 100 times.
You told it on your Facebook page. I don't think you ever told it.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll tell you that. Ida, this one's for you. You ready?
And I'm going to send the picture of Ted and the candle.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Send the picture.
All right, cool.
I'm going to go and find that post actually, Tina. And I can't even remember. Like sometimes when healing occurs, or all the time really, when healing occurs, the catalysts for it are kind of like erased, you know. Like,
I found it, so I'll send it to you, and you do with it what you will.
Yeah.
I found the post.
There's a reason I know there's a reason I was telling the story. Maybe it's past and done. It doesn't matter. But anyway. All right. So for the 10,000th time, probably, or maybe just this one time here and now, since there's no past, the toilet cleaning story is this. Many moons ago, I was traveling the country with a couple of other guys doing a bit of outreach work. We were handing out Course in Miracles books, little 20-minute booklets, stopping in everywhere and doing stuff, you know, different groups, spiritual shops and stuff. Anyway, we got to a point, Australia's a vast country, right? We went thousands and thousands of miles. We got to a point on the coast, just about an hour or so north of where I'm living now. And we ran out of money, all three of us. We looked at each other and it's like, up until then, we were just using each other's cards and didn't really care. We weren't even keeping track. We were being miracle minded. And all of a sudden we ran out of money. And we're like looking at each other. It's like, have you got any money? I'm like, no, well, I haven't got. We couldn't even afford a tank of petrol. So one miracle led to another. And I got a job cleaning the toilets in the caravan park where we were at. All right. We were staying in the van. The girls had their big tent thing they would set up each night. I got a job cleaning the toilets and cleaning the barbecue areas. And it wasn't just the toilets, sort of janitor, you know, like groundsman janitor. Anyway, it was a massive caravan park. In the men's toilets, there was about probably over a dozen cubicles, right? And a massive big piss trough, which I don't know if you have those in other countries, but here, yeah, we have a trough. And in the women's, there was like 24 stalls. Like, I'll probably say 3 dozen the next time I tell this story. It's like a fishing story, you know, but there was a lot of stalls, and the women's one was, and showers and everything, like showers, lockers, you name it. The women's one was always filthy. There was shit on the seats. There was urine on the floors. There was stuff because the mothers take the little kids in.
Oh.
Right. And the little kids can't piss in the hole. They always piss on the seat or shit on the bloody thing. Anyway, so I used to hate doing that one. Because we had no money, I was grateful for the job. Right. It was 4 hours a day. That's all I had to do. And it gave us time to do whatever else we needed to do. at about a month in, I started to realize it was bringing up a lot of resistance in me, this job, right? My gratitude for having the access to finally having some money coming in had sort of waned. And I started to feel like, oh God, I hate cleaning these toilets. This is such a mind-numbingly dull job, boring, whatever. And the two girls decided they had some money now. They decided they'd go back to Byron Bay, which was like 2,000 kilometers away. And so I bought them a ticket on the bus or whatever, and they went back. But I knew I had to stay. I knew I had to stay there because the resistance that it was bringing up was valuable to me, right? I didn't want to waste that situation because it was triggering me daily. It was starting to really get on my nerves cleaning those goddamn toilets. So I made a decision not to quit my job. I had enough money to go back. I could have gone back, driven the van all the way back. But I thought, no, I'm going to stick this out until this is done because everything's just energy. Okay, everything is energy. And I knew that energy was coming up in me. And I knew at a certain point in this cause and effect relationship with me and the toilets, there was going to be a threshold where I just couldn't do it anymore. I knew I wasn't at that threshold yet. I knew that if I offered a prayer of the heart for the healing of my mind in that particular moment, it probably would have just been lip service. I would have just been coming from a place where I was like, oh God, I've had enough of this. But I wasn't really done with it, right? At the depth of my core, I wasn't done with it. I knew I could still get up the next morning and go clean toilets. And I kept going. It took about 4 months, 3.5, 4 months maybe, to clean, to get to the point where I went to bed one night in my van and I knew there was no freaking way I could wake up in the morning and go and clean another goddamn toilet. I just wasn't capable. I'd reached that threshold. I'd reached that point where I was done with it, right? That was the same exact point threshold in my mind when I had cancer, right? That's another story, but the same principle, the same action. And so that night, I had a little space in my van. It was pretty crowded in there. It was only like a commuter van. I had a little space where I could kneel down, and I knelt down, and I had my course book on the little shelf behind the driver's seat. And I was like hands together, and I knelt down and I prayed for the healing of my mind, right, around the whole situation. Because I theorized within myself, why shouldn't I clean the toilets? Do I think I'm better than someone else? Do I think that this is a job for someone that this is below me? Why do I have this resistance? Right? I wanted those toilets. I wanted to be able to clean the toilets without any grievance, without any resistance, right? Because whatever part in creation that I was to play, I'm a part of a whole, and I want to be able to fulfill my part perfectly without judgment, without grievance, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so that prayer went deep. It really, really went deep. And then I went to bed. When I woke up in the morning, I was like a spring chicken. I was like, woohoo! I jumped out of my bed. I raced over to the janitor's closet and I got out the bucket and the mop and the everything. And I'm in there cleaning toilets like Santa Claus is coming, a kid tidying their room. I'm in there cleaning toilets. I'm doing the seats, and I'm doing the back of the seats. I'm doing the pipes that goes down into the floor. I'm doing everything, the top of the mirror. I'm dusting and the whole everything. It was the best time I've ever had cleaning a toilet. I was totally, totally in the moment with it. And then the next thing that happened after I'd finished cleaning the toilets, about an hour after I packed everything away, the lady that owned the caravan park came over to my van and said, look, Dave, I'm sorry, I've got to let you go because really your heart's not in this, your heart's not in cleaning the toilets, whatever. And I thought for a moment about telling her about the shift I'd just had. I thought maybe I should just explain that, everything was all good now and I'm really enjoying it and everything, the whole thing. And then I realized, no, hang on. I've had the shift. I've used the situation for what it was for. And now the universe is liberating me from having to play out the particulars in that situation, and I can go on to whatever the next thing is. Does that make sense? For you, it's exactly the same thing. It's bringing up a package of energy, right? That package of energy is catalyzed by your expectations and whatever, and all these other things and ideas and judgments and everything that you project onto it. Okay. That doesn't matter. All that matters is that you recognize that you're responsible for it. So when you get to the point of transition where you just can't do it anymore, that's the point you go to pray. Okay. Does that make sense? You can hear that?
It just makes complete sense, but do I have to wait for it?
You don't have to wait for it. If you've got the honesty for that prayer, you can do it right now. You can go to the chapel as well and just kneel down. But I can tell in you, you still have time invested in that situation. You're not going to do that. Right? There's still resistance in you there that you're not willing to let go of. You're going to have to push it a little bit more, I think. Right? And I know that in you because I know it in myself. I know how many times I've knelt down to pray and it's just been lip service. And I've got up from my prayers and I've felt half-hearted about it. But I also know the difference that when I've knelt down to pray and I really mean it, I got up from my prayer and man, it feels solid. It's like, man, I really meant that. That really came from my heart. Right? I can't tell you if you're ready to do that or not. Not really. I can just tell you I don't think so. And that's only going to make you more pissed off. Maybe bring you into a place where you can do it. I don't know. This is your journey. But it's important that you understand the path ahead of you. It's important that you understand the meaning and the whole purpose of the relationships with things and people and whatever that you're in. Otherwise, you won't understand your part in it and you won't realize the potential that's contained in the situation for your release.
When you say your part in it, I kind of get lost in it because of my resistance, probably. Like, how is my part? Yeah.
Ready? See this finger? Point this finger up.
Oh, you're gonna make me do that, right?
Ready? Put it up. Put it on your nose.
Ah.
Your part is all of it. Your part is the whole thing. You are not separate from any infinitesimal bit of whatever it is you think is going on here. You're the dreamer of your dream. You are responsible for your thoughts about it in their entirety. If you can have a thought about someone else, you're responsible for that thought. If you can have a thought about something else, you're responsible for that thought. You project onto it the meaning it has. You give it all the meaning it has for you, which actually has no meaning. But you're looking at those false meanings because your brother is not a body. You're looking at those false meanings and now hopefully making a decision to choose again, making a decision to see differently. All right? But you have to own it. You got to totally take responsibility for whatever it is, what you're feeling, what you're thinking, the whole thing, because they're not separate. Right? But you feel that as an energetic, you feel that as a, well, you probably feel it as like a lump in your chest. You know? Like a sack of wet flour somewhere just below your heart or just behind your heart there.
Heavy.
How it feels. Now, when you feel that sack of wet flour down in your stomach, when you can visualize it and imagine it and actually kind of connect with it there, you'll be ready to let it go. That's where healing occurs. You know, when you're asleep in your bed at night and something bangs on the window or the door and you get this kind of frightened thing in your gut, like in your stomach, you go, you take a gasp and you go, You pull the blankets up, you feel it in your stomach, right? That's where you store your fear. That's where you store your dark stuff, not in the physical sense, but in the symbolic representation of consciousness, in the symbolic represent, because the body is the symbolic representation of consciousness, right? This is a physical awakening. This is a physical transformation. Through the mind, the body is not only healed, which is a secondary result, but you'll experience the miracles through your hands, right? But your hands, your feet, and every part of your body is entirely useful in this. And you're going to feel the transformation occur through, it's like, who was it that had the throat thing going on? Just right, Tina, right? So that throat thing, I don't want to talk about this in terms of chakras. I know you guys will want to kind of associate those that have an Eastern thing, but there's no such thing as chakras, right? There's nothing about awakening that represents the activation of glands. Okay, this is all in the mind, but the body being a symbolic representation of an idea of self that's false in the mind, it also compartmentalizes the idea of feeling things. All right. One of the things I know in this is that when you're confronted with your emotions, you can't lie to yourself about it. You can lie to yourself about how you feel when you're trying to examine your thinking. Oh, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I blew it all out of proportion, whatever. But when you're confronted by the emotionality of something, you can't say you don't feel it. That's like an incredibly strong misuse of denial if you were trying to do that. When you feel bored, when you feel frustrated, when you feel that, you're feeling that. That's the honest place, right? Now, when we do our light meditation and you breathe, right, and you breathe into it and stuff like that, you're going to breathe into it where you feel it, right? Sometimes you're going to feel this sort of around the heart space towards your back, and it's going to feel like, at the worst, it's going to feel like your spine's going to snap outwards to the back, right? Sometimes it feels just like a dull heaviness, right? When you feel it in your stomach, it's going to feel like a lump of lead, right? I'm telling you to try and connect with how it feels, because that's a place where you're going to activate the release from, right? You're going to go there with the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit says to me, you know, like, if you take my hand, I'll lead you to where the blocks are, right? The body is symbolic of where the blocks are, but you can lie about the blocks to yourself in your mind. You can't lie about it to you in your thinking, in your emotions, rather. Okay. So when you bring cause and effect together, which is your thoughts and your feelings, right? It doesn't always have to be that way. Sometimes you can do it in your thoughts if it's something superficial, but when it's deep rooted, you'll do anything to get out of it. You've been a liar from the beginning, right? Why can't someone do this for me? Why do I have to go through this? Right? Seek for the blocks and find them. I'm telling you right now, you're looking at one of your blocks. Right?
Thank God.
Right. You're the one that's got to decide which block it is, or not really. You don't even have to decide. You probably already know, right? There's the desire to get rid of peace, the belief the body's valuable, the fear of death, and the fear of love. And then beyond that, the belief that it's even possible for you to even have a block. But we're not going to two-step this. We're not going to sort of like jump to the end. We're going to do the work. All right. So all I'm going to say to you is stay in that energy. Stay there. Let it fester. Get to the bottom of it. Because you don't want to have to quit that job and come back around in another job or whatever and go through the same shit again.
Which I've been doing all my life.
Right. Stop running away. Face it. Right. Let it happen. It's not going to be pretty. You're not going to enjoy it. But if you can remember that now you have a true purpose for actually wanting to go there to do that, you'll actually be able to do it. Right. And I know you can face the block because you're the one that made it up in the first place. You had the power of mind to make it up. You've got the power of mind to release yourself from it. You're holding the prison door closed against yourself, even though the door's not locked. And you'll hear my voice, you'll hear my words in it in the moment where you're actually honest with it. Right? You'll know it. You'll hear me telling you, okay, now go and pray. Or if it's not me, it'll be Jesus. Or if it's not Jesus, it'll be another voice. You'll hear something very clearly direct you from within, telling you, you need to go and pray. Is that okay?
And what's the deal with not being honest with it? You know, what's the deal with like that I have to keep it going until I get to that honesty? Why I cannot be honest about it right now? It's like very
Well, be honest about it right now then. You would need to go and pray. You would need to draw your circle, be honest about it right now, and heal it in your mind right now.
well, okay, obviously I'm not able to do it. I don't do it most of the time. And I'm asking
Right.
why.
Because you don't want to. You simply don't want to. You still prefer the dream, the illusion, the suffering. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's the way it is. We're all completely insane. We're all mad down here. All the best people are. The Mad Hatter. You're crazy, Ida. You're absolutely 100% off the tilt. Salvation is being offered to you here and now. And rather than just say yes, you're looking at other things. What about this? What about me at work? What about this situation, that situation? I'm telling you that include the situation in because you've got it going on anyway, but it's still going to be the offering of salvation on the other side of it. Eventually, you're going to get the gist of this and you're going to stop manifesting things to project onto and you're just going to be happy. Right? You're just going to start to find that flow and start to live in that flow and from that flow and carry that with you out into the world wherever you go.
That's all I want. I'm lying, but that's all I want.
Yeah, right. Good. That's honest. You're lying, but that's all you want. Fuck you, Dave.
Don't fuck you, thanks to you.
Right, exactly. Fuck you, Dave. Right? That's honest. Go fuck yourself, Jesus. That's honest. Fuck you, God. That's the whole thing. Like this whole world is a dream of fuck you, God, you know, giving the finger to God. I got my own world. I'm doing my own thing. I don't need you.
True. That's the authority problem.
Right, exactly. There you go, the authority problem. Now go to your course book and read the authority problem.
Well,
right?
every day I lose it though.
You lose it?
Meaning like, fuck you, God, every day. And then
right.
That's
but you've got to get to that.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to get to that point. Fuck you, God. You've got to like use that up or burn that up or be done with that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like at some point, the idea of surrender, the idea of responsibility and all those other things has to come in, has to kick in for you. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not happening yet because you still have time left in you. You still have potential.
For what?
I don't know. You tell me. It's your dream. But whatever it is, the purpose of the course is to collapse time. Now, if you insist on doing this course, right, and if you persist with it, you'll eventually learn about collapsing time, all of that stuff, and you'll start to see it without needing to ask me about things or whatever. You'll just see it. Okay, it'll be as clear as day what you're doing in your own mind. You'll be like, oh, I'm doing this to myself. Right? At that point, you can choose again. But there's like this backlog. Right? I don't know how to talk about this. A debt, a karmic debt, they talk about it in the East. Right? So when you come to any spiritual practice, you come with an entire world of bullshit in a sack over your back and you turn up at the ashram or whatever, and the temptation is, because everybody else is wearing robes and putting on beads, you want to wear robes and put on beads. Okay? You want to dance the Hare Krishna. You want to do the whole thing and be free like they are, but they've done their work. You've got to do your work. You're still in the why me, poor me stage. What about me? Look at me. Why me, poor me? That can go on for years. Where's Clinton? 10 years he's been trying to get to a meeting or something, right? That can go on for years. But I'm telling you that if you're aware, you can choose that be other than it is. All right? You're aware of a situation at work that you now have the power to do something about by taking responsibility for it. You're not going to do that until you're done with it the way it is. And you're not done with it the way it is, or you'd be on your knees in prayer right now, instead of listening to me.
I'm praying in my own ways right now.
Well, whatever. I'm sure that's working out for you just great. Let me know how you go with that. All right. Should we do a light? Anyone want to do a little thing? Where's Wendy? We've lost Wendy. I was going to talk to her about something. Heidi, you're good. Everyone else good? Wesley, you're good. How's that? Where did he go? He just disappeared. Man, that was fast.
Yeah, he just dropped off. I think he's gonna come back.
Wesley disappeared into the light. Bingo. In the twinkling of an eye. There's Wendy. All right, let's do a little light session.